I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Friday, March 18th. We have got an absolutely loaded show for you guys today. The NFL has just not allowed anybody to take a break over the past week. My goodness, free agency has been wild this year. But before we jump into all of that, we would like to say that we are proud to be a part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. You can find them at PigskinPodNet on Twitter, or you can search the hashtag TPPN as we hashtag that when we go live. Dennis, Matt are both here with me. Gentlemen, I mean, have either one of you gotten any sleep since the NFL free agency, or really this past week with NFL free agency kicking off?
I haven't gotten a lot of sleep, but I think it's more related to the fact that my son was taking his driving test today, and he got his license about 2 hours ago, and now it started raining, and he's off on his maiden voyage with his car, and it's not storming, but it's wet out there. It's more than just a misting. Hopefully it's enough to make him realize, hey, it's wet. I should probably be extra careful on my first day of driving solo. That's probably what's kept me up more. Football's been crazy. That's been the adrenaline that's kept me going there. It's all coked up, man.
What did you say this week has been drunk?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Actually, speaking of sleep, I had 12 straight days of work, and I started vacation today. Go to Las Vegas tomorrow. Got a sinus infection. So I started some antibiotics Thursday. My wife, ever looking to cheer me up this morning, said I looked like death. So I went and took a nap, and I just wake up and I see that picture Dennis posted in our chat, and I thought, well, something must have happened. So I'm getting my sleep just in the off hours.
Yeah, if you guys did not catch the news, Matt was also traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. That is why he is heading out to Las Vegas here this weekend. He helped broker that deal. Actually, I'm a little disappointed as I do kind of like the Green Bay Packers, but Matt making himself some money. Speaking of making money, I mean, I guess we have to lead off with the big news here, and that is Deshaun Watson. So when we left you guys Monday, a lot has happened. We heard that Deshaun Watson was likely going to be traded. I brought up that at that point, I believe, was the very earliest part of the rumors that the Browns were going to try and get in on the sweepstakes. At one point, it was the Browns, the Saints, the Falcons, and who was the fourth team? I'm trying to remember now. I can't remember who it was for the life of me.
The Panthers.
Panthers, yeah.
Up until yesterday, everybody was told, at least by NFL insiders, that the Panthers and the Browns were out of it. It was going to come down to the Falcons and the Saints. What is going on, Xavier? And Caden, yes, we're going to talk about the Deshaun Watson deal right now, actually. I will give my thoughts being a Browns fan. So, then rumors were this morning, and I've seen a lot of people posting, so I do believe this, it was going to be Atlanta, until Cleveland came in at the last minute and told Deshaun Watson that they are going to, quote-unquote, pay him what he's worth. That meant $230 million, I believe, fully guaranteed. They are
fully
all
guaranteed.
on Deshaun Watson. I don't know if his agent was talking to Kirk Cousins' agent, trying to figure out how to get everything fully guaranteed, because holy crap. Fully guaranteed contract for 5 years. They also gave up 5 draft picks, 3 first, a third, and a fourth. They did get back a fifth. Okay. This is a very deep conversation here, so we're definitely going to spend a lot of time on this. I actually want to let's save the Watson on and off the field discussion for the end of this, because I think that's a deeper conversation that at least I know I want to spend time on. We were just talking a minute ago pre-stream about that. I don't want to cut that short. So let's go to the other stuff first here. Matt, what does this mean for the Panthers, Falcons, and Saints now, who are all very heavily as well hoping to get Deshaun Watson and did not get him?
Yeah, so I think the Falcons probably just stick with Matt Ryan. It's not great. They also don't have any wide receivers, but they did sign Damian Williams. So they have Damian Williams and Mike Davis. Kyle Pitts out there, probably his new nickname is the Lonely Island. The Saints, it looks like, are going to re-up with Jameis Winston. I thought Winston was okay before he got hurt there. They still have Taysom Hill. They're probably going to roll with that. Both those teams have cap issues and a lot of different problems. The real question is going to be the Panthers. The only quarterbacks out there, I doubt they want to go after Baker. It doesn't seem like they've been that interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm wondering if they take somebody with the 6th pick. Do they roll Sam Darnold out there like he was always plan A? But all 3 of those teams remain in purgatory, and Tampa Bay is just sitting back laughing, making their January plans.
Yeah, I feel like Ryan he probably wants to be traded right now. So I think it's his agent and Baker's agent right now, both trying to convince Indianapolis, hey, this is the guy you want. In Indy, I think either one could be successful in Indy. Good offensive line, good alpha wide receiver, good running back, good defense. So I think Ryan and Baker both could be successful. It comes down to, I think, do you want a quarterback that's kind of the consummate professional, not a high ceiling, but I think Ryan would execute things. He's certainly above Phillip Rivers level at this point. Or do you want to go with Baker, who's younger, who, if he's successful, you could have somebody who's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder, wanting to prove the Browns wrong. I feel like those are the 2 guys really in it for Indianapolis. I mean, they could still trade for Jimmy. The question with him is he's coming off the injury, what is it, shoulder and hand injuries. So I think he's out there. The pool of quarterbacks out there isn't too deep. I think, who is it? Pete Carroll's expressed some interest in Baker as well. So it's going to be interesting. There's 5 spots and probably 1 to 2 rookies I would feel comfortable throwing in the sink or swim. But I don't know that I would, there's no franchise quarterbacks out there now.
Ooh, I may slightly disagree with that. The Panthers, I'm the most confused about this. I was telling Matt about this earlier. I'm in a couple different Discords, one of which, I believe he changed it back now to Destination Devy, Ray Garvin, who knows some people in the NFL. And we were talking a little bit this week about being at the Senior Bowl and how Matt Rule has just really kind of, the shine that was on Matt Rule a couple years ago has completely gone away. There's a lot of players and everything that have talked about not necessarily like playing for him. There was rumors all over the college, universe, or however you want to put it, this preseason, that if James Franklin left Penn State to go to USC before Lincoln Riley was named the head coach, that Matt Rule would leave to go back to Penn State like immediately. So clearly that's not working out. And what makes that situation very interesting for me is I don't think their new GM is in any rush to necessarily draft a quarterback because he doesn't need to. Where I think Matt Rule may want to take a quarterback, and I believe he has final say on roster movement and everything. He has the past couple of years. So does he take a quarterback with their first pick because he knows they need somebody because he doesn't want to go with Sam Darnold? That is what's interesting to me because I agree. I don't think they go get a Baker or a Jimmy G. I don't think they make that bet because of what they did with Sam Darnold, especially not Baker, because they're going to be back right in the same situation they were last year. If they go in, then they have to decide immediately, are we picking up his fifth-year option? Now, granted, I do think Baker has shown a ton more on the field than Sam Darnold has, but you're still putting yourself in that same situation. Indy is interesting to me, and Matt, why we talked obviously a little bit before we jumped on that I thought, tell me what this sounds like to you. As Dennis mentioned, good defense, really good running back and running game, one of the better offensive lines in all of football, and like a good receiving weapon. Well, that sounds like the AFC South Browns to me, is what that sounds like. So you're going to take Baker Mayfield from the same situation he was in Cleveland and send him to the same situation down the AFC South, adding in, and maybe this is just because I do have a very like small hatred for Frank Reich, bad play calling as well, because that's exactly what Frank Reich has shown us. Like, I think Baker could thrive in that offense and be good, but I don't think he'd do anything for us fantasy. I think you're going to see I think you can see what we saw from him in 2020, but I don't know that he's going to be game changing, if that makes sense. Like, I think he could be good there. I think him or Jimmy G would fit there. Go ahead, Matt.
One note is Baker is on his fifth-year option right now. He was the same draft class as Sam Darnold.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it'd be
that's
interesting
right.
if you trade for him, you have the first and third overall pick. So it's a one-year bet on Baker where I think maybe they would. I don't think that's a terrible decision for any teams. You have a point about Indianapolis, except for I will go back and say Indianapolis has actually lost some pieces on its offensive line in the last couple of years, so they have some work to do. They have money, but they don't have a first-round pick, and they have some work to do. I think you bring up excellent points. Like, what are his receivers? You hope Paris Campbell is something. Zach Pascal exists.
Yeah. I think
you have Mo Alley Cox.
I think Pascal's a free agent. Did they re-sign him?
Pascal.
Like, when I was looking, I know they've got Pittman and they've got Paris Campbell. Pittman's the only one you can rely on. So it's like he's right back in the same situation he was in Cleveland. Now, granted, Jonathan Taylor, and I mean, I think it's fair to say, though, even with that offensive line losing pieces, that's kind of the offensive line he's had in Cleveland the past 2 years, because Cleveland, while they've had a lot of really good players, they've been beat up.
You're right. He doesn't. Pascal is a free agent.
I thought
they have Kiki Kuti, though.
Hey, there we go, baby. There we go. So it's intriguing for me, like, because all the rumors have been the past couple of days. Obviously, we know what happened with Baker, and I was talking before we jumped on air that, like, I was about to come on with like a very passionate defending Baker speech today, because I think the Browns fans have gone way too far on the hate for Baker. He was great his rookie season. He kept us in a playoff race, and I guarantee Dennis was 100% right, because I remember this conversation. Dennis, I believe, Matt, you and me were on the same side of start Tyrod Taylor, do not start Baker Mayfield. And Dennis said, throw him out there. Let's see what you do. If Hugh Jackson doesn't make a dumb decision in the Pittsburgh Steelers game where you end up, I believe they tied, you win that game. They should have beaten the Saints. They would have started off the season 2-0 before Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. Baker Mayfield takes over. All they needed to do was win one extra game, and they would have made the playoffs, I believe, his rookie season. I remember they got eliminated. It was in like week 15 or 16 in Denver, because it was a Saturday game, and I went to that game, and they won, and then the Steelers won that Sunday, and that's what eliminated them from making the playoffs. Then everybody seems to just completely gloss over the fact that he had an incredible 2020 season, and it may not have been great for fantasy, because I think he only had 26 touchdowns, but he only had 8 interceptions. good passing yards. He was great all season long. Again, they were in. A lot of people like to overlook that Kansas City Chiefs playoff game and say, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes got knocked out. They were limiting them to field goals in that game. It was a good game. Baker was playing well in that game. Played well in the game against Kansas City to start off this season before he got hurt. I understood he threw the interception that pretty much ended the game for him, but he was playing well. Baker is not a bad quarterback. What I think the issue is he's definitely, I don't even want to say he's not mature, but he's very much a guy who plays with a chip on his shoulder. And when you're winning, that's great. Everybody loves you. When you're not, they don't. And I think that's why people soured so quickly on Baker Mayfield. I think that if he goes to Indy, he could thrive. If he goes to Seattle, I'm not so sure. I don't love that offensive line. I think it's one of the worst in the league. Obviously, he's got Lockett and Metcalf, which is good. But I don't know if they bring back Penny, how the running game is going to look. So I'd much rather see him go to Indy and thrive there. But I don't know what's going to happen with Baker. That's going to be something that comes down. I honestly don't even think a lot of people talk about the Browns getting a first-round pick for him. I don't see that happening. I think it's more of like a Carson Wentz deal that we saw where it's conditional based on what he does in the 2020 season, meaning they're not going to get a 2022 pick from him. I think it's going to be a 2023, like, third that can become a second or something like that based on how Baker plays, a la what they did with Wentz when he went to the Colts and with him going over to Washington.
I mean, Baker has almost a $19 million cap hit right now. So whoever takes him for the Browns, who only are at $2 million in cap space, they need somebody to take all of that money. And so we've seen when you do that lowers your draft picks you're going to get if you're going to eat all that money, even if it's just for 1 year. So, no, they're not getting a first. I would be surprised if they got a second. And if they got a second, I don't think they would get anything else with it at all.
Yeah, and that's why I think Indy makes the most sense. Seattle's got the picks too, but Indy, there's all the talks that Indy might be in for Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think he'd fit that system fine as well. Like, I think if either one of them go there, Indy's probably, at least in my opinion, maybe I'm just continuing to hate on Tennessee for no reason, probably the best team in the South if they get either one of those quarterbacks. But they've got to take a shot on one of them because hoping that someone falls to you in the second round at that pick, I don't think is a smart decision to make for the Indianapolis Colts. Matt, anything you want to add on Baker or that other stuff before we jump into the Watson talk here?
Well, I do think of the potential destinations out there, it would be interesting maybe to see Baker go to Seattle because they have better receivers. It seemed like Seattle, though, is content as one can be with Drew Lock, and they probably are a team that's going to draft some kind of development quarterback. Indy, the only thing I will say, you're right about like some of the pieces, but the AFC South, what it has over Seattle, the NFC West is probably one of the toughest divisions of football. The AFC South is one of the most dreadful. Houston's rebuilding. Jacksonville thinks that Christian Kirk is a wide receiver one and the second coming of Devonte Adams. And Tennessee has A.J. Brown. That's pretty much it. Indianapolis was 9-8 with middling quarterback play and middling production all the way around last year. Baker probably could do better than Carson Wentz if he stays healthy.
I mean, I think that Indianapolis has the best team. And for me, Vincent Frank on Twitter, I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday, he tweeted, he said, look, the NFL likes Jimmy Garoppolo a lot more than fantasy pundits do. And if Jimmy was in Indianapolis or Cleveland in 2021, both of those teams would have made the playoffs. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I feel like Jimmy might be the one who's at the top of the pecking order they're waiting now, but now that the Watson domino has fallen, I think we see the rest of the veteran quarterback stuff shake out here pretty quickly.
And you never know, too. I mean, if San Francisco is patient, every year we see a quarterback get wiped out in training camp or the preseason due to injury. Every year we see a contender get
You
dealt
putting
a
a
blow.
curse out there.
Well, I'm not, it'd be wonderful if that didn't happen, but we seem to see it every year. I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco decides to bide their time.
All right, I'm just going to put this out here. I don't necessarily think there's no way this is true. There is a rumor going around Twitter right now that Baker Mayfield is about to be traded to the Seattle Seahawks for DK Metcalf and 2 first-round picks. I don't know what 2 first-round picks they're getting from Cleveland unless it's 2025 and 2026, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. DK is about to be a free agent, so maybe?
No, are they saying that Cleveland is getting the 2 first-round
no,
picks?
in exchange for Baker Mayfield. No, just DK is headed to Cleveland in exchange for Baker Mayfield and 2 first-round picks.
That feels physically impossible.
That's what I'm saying. But it's being now talked about by multiple people. So I'm just saying.
Well,
okay, we'll see.
McVay and Les Snead have kind of started a fuck them picks trend. So
that's true.
I know, but you just go 5 years out. Why does Seattle want to go 2024?
That's where I'm a little bit more.
Look,
like if they didn't have
dynasty,
if they would have just traded 3.
If it doesn't work out in 2 years, they can move assets for picks. They'll have, they can move DK for a first round pick, I'm sure, in 2024 off season. Let's go for it.
I guess. So there is another one. Maybe it's because the Seahawks there's a lot of stuff that the Seahawks are making a push to get Baker Mayfield. So we'll see. I mean, I would much rather see him go to Indy, but I agree. Seattle definitely has.
Pete Carroll saw DK Metcalf defend Drew Lock on Twitter, and is like, "Fuck that guy."
And again, I get maybe being able to not get much for DK because he's about to be a free agent. Maybe you don't want to franchise tag him, but again, like you're talking about, they traded 3 first-round picks, so the earliest one you're getting from the Browns is 2025. Like that just seems like a ways out to trade. I understand you're getting Baker, and if he ends up being good for you, by the way, Dallas just picked up a wide receiver.
Yeah, James Washington.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the heavy topic here, and that is Deshaun Watson. Before we get into that, Dennis brought up a good tweet that at least I had not seen from Austin Gale over at PFF. If you guys want to look at that, he is at PFF __ Austin Gale, Gayle. It is for a what is this? Where did it go? It is for a organization that helps. It's called RAIN's Mission Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. Is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. RAIN created.
RAIN.
I'm sorry. RAIN.
The organization is RAIN.
Oh, I'm sorry. RAIN.
It's just telling you the organization's
gotcha.
mission.
Okay.
Sorry.
RAIN. I'm sorry. And RAIN created and operates the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 800-656-HOPE. You can also go to online.rain.org or rain.org/ES. It is in partnership with more than 1,000 local sexual assault service providers across the country and operates the DoD Safe Help Hotline for the Department of Defense. RAIN also carries out programs to prevent sexual violence, help survivors, and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. That leads us into Deshaun Watson. We obviously talked about the money and the...
Remember,
go ahead, Dennis.
Two N's in RAIN. RAINN.
Yes.
So...
We already talked about the picks, obviously, and the money that he's getting from Cleveland. I guess really quick, we can touch on the fantasy side of things. Likely at least a top 5 QB for both of you moving forward. I mean, obviously, we don't know what kind of suspension he may get this year, but after that, do you guys see him not being a top 5 option? He was top 3, I think, last time he was on the field.
Yeah, I don't know about top 5. We've had some good young quarterbacks come in, but he's probably not going to be below 6 or 7. So if he's not top 5 for you, he's darn close. And if everything, once he gets chemistry, the thing is he's going to be out 6 or 8 games, I think conservatively estimated. And then he's going to have to develop. So he's got the rest of the offseason to develop some chemistry, training camp. Then he's off. He's out, can't practice with the team for 2 months likely. And then he's got to get back on the field, develop the in-game chemistry. So it'll be a year and a half since he's played in a real game. I think if you're looking at I think it may be interesting from a fantasy standpoint if he comes out of the gate after the suspension. And I'm going to just assume a suspension is happening and it's going to be 6 or 8 games. So when I say after the suspension, whether or not it happens, if it doesn't, you can make fun of me. Whether or not that's long enough, probably not. But if he looks rough the first few games coming off of the suspension, from a fantasy perspective, I'd still be willing to go get him in hopes that he's going to come around. He's a talented quarterback, and having Amari Cooper and David Njoku, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and a good offensive line, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for him to get back in the saddle and get going.
Yeah, I had him in Dynasty ranks at 13 with the uncertainty. I think I probably will pull him up to 7. Part of me wants to see, Watson's very talented as a player. We're going to set aside everything else. But the system that they run there, he's never really produced, even when we've seen Kirk Cousins have some good statistical seasons in that similar system in Minnesota. He's been around QB 10 range. Maybe Watson does enough rushing to get there, but I still don't see the Browns as an open up and throw it. And from that standpoint, depending on what Kyler Murray does, depending on what Matthew Stafford does now with Allen Robinson, depending on what Russell Wilson does in a system that is similar to what Aaron Rodgers was in, he could have a fine season. We saw, obviously, Baker, as you just touched on in 2020, had a great season as a quarterback in that system with the Browns having a good deal of success on the field. He wasn't necessarily a fantasy all-star. And so that would be part of my hesitation. Are you going to see that wide open kind of scheme? The Browns might also be a better team. The Texans did not really have much of a defense when Watson was there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, I know he had Hopkins, so obviously, in my opinion, Hopkins is much better than Amari Cooper. He's the best wide receiver he's had was when he was in Houston with Hopkins, but I'm very curious to see what Stefanski does here. I would not be surprised if he changes his offense a little bit to fit Watson's skills, and the one thing I will say is Watson, obviously, with his legs, is much more mobile than Baker. And we saw at times that really hurt Baker not being able to get away from the defensive players where we know Watson can. So I do think the rushing side will help him a little bit. But again, right now, he's got an Amari Cooper. And, I know a lot of people are pumping up Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like, I'm not going to say he's going to be like a great success now just because Deshaun Watson's there. Like, I'm not necessarily sold on that. I think they need to add somebody. They're not going to be able to do that in the first round now, though, because they got rid of that pick. For the Watson thing, and so Dennis, I know, is also a Browns fan. For me, it's kind of been a very interesting thing looking at Twitter, right? Like I've only posted one tweet, and it was just I was not expecting this to happen. I'm very torn on it, very conflicted, because I do understand that you are technically innocent until proven guilty, and I don't know what happened with the grand jury. I know that they chose not to indict him. I did not look into that. Don't know why. In the court of public opinion, I do believe that Deshaun Watson is 100% guilty. My opinion, he did something wrong. I don't know exactly what, but you don't have that many people come forward and there not be something that happened there. That part bothers me a lot, but the way I look at it, and you can shame me for this if you want, I don't think it's a bad thing to be excited for Cleveland the organization, the fans, and the players that are good people on that roster. Because I'm just going to be honest, I think Watson is kind of a garbage human being for what he did. That's just my opinion. You can take that for what it's worth. But Myles Garrett is not. Myles Garrett, I mean, he's made a bad decision on the field, but off the field, everything he's done for Cleveland, all the charities and everything that he's helped out, I think Myles Garrett's a very good person. Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb. There's a lot of people on that Cleveland team, in that organization, and the fans that are good people that I think will benefit from what happened here with Deshaun Watson. I do not think it's wrong to cheer for the Cleveland Browns and hope for their success, but also not be happy that Deshaun Watson is your quarterback. I don't think because you're happy that the Browns are winning means you're saying I'm happy that Deshaun Watson is here. But if we're also being 100% honest with everybody, and this is what I was talking about a little bit in our Slack channel today, there's a lot of bad people in the NFL that have got second chances and are succeeding. One that broke a kid's arm and helped the Chiefs win a Super Bowl. We've seen other people knock out their wives and still play in the NFL. There's a lot of bad people in the NFL, and yet those fans continue to go on and cheer for their teams. Like, I don't think that cheering for Cleveland is wrong. You can cheer for Cleveland and not like Deshaun Watson. I feel like right now Twitter is like saying you can't, I guess, have your cake and eat it too, where I disagree with that. You can be happy for Cleveland and not be happy that Deshaun is your quarterback. Angie, I am 100% with you. I was hoping Baker would not get traded. I will fully admit I think Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback, but I do love Baker. I've got his jersey right here. I will always be a fan of Baker, and I will always continue to root for him and hope that he succeeds at the next level. So that's just kind of my piece on that. Obviously, as a just human being, I'm not happy with Deshaun Watson being my quarterback and everything he did off the field, but I will continue to cheer for the Browns because that is my team and I want to see them have success. Dennis, you are also a Browns fan. Just kind of what went through your head today when you saw the deal?
I mean, I want my team to be good. I like to cheer for my team being good. I like to cheer for good people. Certainly there's an internal conflict. We see people comments a lot of times where fantasy players are like, I'll never roster Kareem Hunt. I'll never roster Tyreek Hill. I'll never roster Joe Mixon. I get it. And I'm okay with people taking those stances. I'm playing a game of fantasy football, trying to win my leagues. I can be morally disgusted with his reprehensible behavior, but still cheer for the Browns. And that's what I'm going to do. There's part of me, as a lifelong Detroit Lions fan who adopted the Browns when I moved to Ohio, maybe there's a little bit in me that can say, well, the Lions are my first team. But, at some point, the Lions, I'm sure, are going to have a piece of shit human being playing on their team too. There's plenty of them out in society that hold jobs in all types of positions of authority. And, it's unfortunate that we don't behave in the best interest of all the time. There's some of us that just don't behave that way. But I want the Browns to win. And so I am looking forward to that happening.
Yeah, we'll see how everything plays out. Everybody has to make their own decision about how they're going to run their rosters. I'll be curious to see where Baker goes too. Be excited to see what he can do. Some of these, it's the same reason I'm excited to see Mitch Trubisky. Sometimes you want to see somebody get away from their situation. I actually would be interested to see Drew Lock if he gets to start in Seattle. Sometimes you want to see, was it the player? Was it the situation? Sometimes we found it's the player. Sometimes we found it's the situation. I think Baker gave his all. It wasn't working out. He probably couldn't stay there. It looked like it had reached a point before today where it wouldn't have been good for him or the organization. So both get to move on. And, Watson hasn't played in a year. He probably, as Dennis said, 6 or 8 games, and then we will see what he looks like in a new team, new system.
Thank you, Angie, for the sub. I saw that, and yes, Colts is definitely an interesting spot. I would like to see him go there over Seattle. Seattle is the other team really being rumored to be in the hunt here. Miguel, again, I mean, you are right. You are innocent until proven guilty, but I also think the world is not
Where
just
there's
black and
smoke,
white.
there's fire.
There's a lot of gray, and it wasn't just one, it was 22, I believe, accusations. That's not nothing. So you can take that however you want. If you want to believe, or if you think that, I shouldn't even say believe, if you think he did nothing wrong, that's perfectly fine. I just don't believe that. And again, I also believe everybody deserves a second chance. Like, I'm not out here saying he should never play again, but I don't think it's unfair to say I'm not thrilled that he's the quarterback of my favorite team. If you are happy with that, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with your thoughts on that whatsoever. Everybody is allowed their opinion. That's what makes fantasy football, NFL, all this stuff so much fun. You don't have to. Nobody's right or wrong, in my opinion, on any of this stuff. All right, so let's Dennis. Before we jump into Devonte Adams, which I thought was going to be the biggest thing we were going to talk about today, which the Browns said hold my beer, which there's even more reports coming out about that, which we can touch on, I guess, in a minute. Tell everybody, with March Madness going on, what's a way that they could go bet and win some money this weekend?
So I hope nobody put their money on Kentucky to be the champ. That's for certain. College basketball fans, join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple, as long as you didn't bet on Kentucky. If they win, you win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops action with DraftKings Pools. Everyone can play free pools all March long for a shot at a share of over $250,000 in prizes. Simply join a pool, answer questions like, who will make the next round? Who will hit the most three-pointers? Then track your results. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 and older. Restrictions apply. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Wyoming. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 in Connecticut and New Hampshire. 888-789-7777 or visit http://ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-877-770-STOP. That's 1-877-770-7867 in Louisiana. 877-8-HOPE New York. That's 8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Visit opgr.org in Oregon. Call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789 in Tennessee, or 1-888-532-3500 in Virginia. 21 or older, 18 or older in New Hampshire and Wyoming. Physically present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming only. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See http://DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details.
So one we didn't mention, I'd actually be very curious to see Baker go to the Saints as well. He did get a lot of talk about being a Drew Brees type quarterback. We saw it now. I'm not saying he is Drew Brees, but I'd be very intrigued to see him go to the Saints. Anyways, before we move off the Deshaun Watson thing,
might be a team with fewer offensive weapons than Indianapolis.
That's true. No, they've got Michael Thomas at least, and they could probably draft a quarterback. They won't have to give up their first. They draft a wide receiver there. They still have a pretty decent offensive line. I mean, you're probably losing
We
Kamara for.
don't know what happens to Kamara. Michael Thomas has not played in 2 years.
Yeah, but he's still there. He's still got hands. He may not be quite the weapon he was.
I hope Michael Thomas comes back, but I don't know if I would say that's a guarantee. But I would take Michael Pittman right now over.
But a lot of issues now. A lot of general managers are apparently around the league very upset with Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed contract. And I didn't think about this. Usually you see the next quarterback get the better deal. I'm very curious to see. I don't think anybody's going to get like a more fully guaranteed contract than that. I guess I could be wrong. But I'm very curious to see what happens with this moving forward because we usually see these contracts get one-upped every single time the next quarterback comes up. A lot of people very upset that he got a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. Devonte Adams also got the bag.
Those people are all in Arizona because Kyler Murray was already upset with it.
Yeah. Angie, I like Garrett Wilson. He is my number one wide receiver in the class. Great route runner, great everything. I'm very curious to see where he gets drafted. I think Treylon Burks, and Drake London are the only three that are system proof. Wherever they go, I think they will succeed in the NFL. Speaking of wide receivers, Devonte Adams gets traded to the Raiders, signs a 5-year, $142.5 million deal. I believe how much of that is guaranteed? Is it like 70, right?
Not all of it.
Yeah, it's definitely not all of it.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I thought it was 70 or 80, so a lot, almost all of it. The Raiders give up their 2022 first and 2022 second to Green Bay. Dennis, let's start on the Packers side here. There's obviously rumors on both sides that, Aaron Rodgers definitely knew this deal was happening. Aaron Rodgers didn't know this deal was happening. I mean, he comes back. And all signs, I think, pointed if we were paying attention that this was probably happening. I know there was a lot of reports. Apparently, Devonte Adams bought a house in Las Vegas like 2 weeks ago. So I think he knew, or maybe he realized he was going to get traded. So I think Aaron Rodgers probably knew. But the Packers have not shown any willingness to draft a wide receiver before like the 5th round in the NFL. What are they going to do here? Because it's just Alan Lazard on their team right now, right? Josiah DeGuara, tight end.
Randall Cobb.
There we go. Like, that's probably one of the – I think that rivals Atlanta for one of the worst wide receiver cores in the league.
Oh, no. They saw Atlanta and they said, hold my beer.
Yeah. Your thoughts on what Green Bay does here now with 2 picks and losing Devonte?
I think they should probably draft a wide receiver. There's still some free agent wide receivers available. Jarvis Landry could be a fit there, depending on what Green Bay's cap space is. I don't think it's terrific. Let me go find it. They've got $23 million. So they do have some money to be able to sign a veteran or two. I mean, hell, Cole Beasley could go there. Him and Aaron would fit together. They'd be like, a glove, No.
COVID brothers or non-vaccination brothers, whatever you want to call it.
So, but there's still a couple guys out there. There's talk they want to bring MVS back. Now that's a little more of a priority. I think that despite MVS's hands, I think Rodgers has some trust with him. So him and Lazard could be the guys. And Rodgers makes people look good. They're going to draft somebody. They're going to sign some free agent, and everybody's going to write them off. And then Rodgers is going to make them look good. But they, if they bring MVS back, they've got a deep threat. If they've got Lazard back, he's the big wide receiver. I could see him taking somebody like Chris Olave, who's got great hands and can work the short area really well, has real good speed. I could see them, bringing in somebody like Jarvis that, if Jarvis went there, he works that underneath area and would give Rodgers a security blanket. He's not going to make, I think, the big plays that Devonte Adams used to make, but they're going to have to bring somebody in and, maybe Amari Rodgers steps up. he's going into his second year. Aaron Jones could potentially catch 90 balls this year. He could go nuts. They could put both him and Dylan on the field at the same time. So they're not completely bereft of talent or options, but they've just had such an elite option for so long. It's hard to look at them and look at what we all felt like Rodgers has wanted the team to do, and they've done pretty much the complete opposite of it. I don't know. It's a little bit puzzling.
They have 2 first-round picks. They should use at least one on a wide receiver. Will they? It's Chinatown, Jake. We don't know. But I will say one of the concerns I would have is we've talked about many times that Rodgers is not the most trusting when it comes to wide receivers. So, it took a long time for Devonte Adams, who's probably the highest wide receiver they've drafted, which was 8 years ago. They took him in the second round. Their current lineup, they have Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers, Rico Gafford, Juwan Winfrey, and Chris Blair. So that strikes fear into the hearts of Packers fans and Packers fans alone. You're right. They could bring back MVS. Robert Tonyan is a free agent. They could go get him back because they don't have much at tight end. The wide receiver pool in free agency is getting thin if they want to make a move. I mean, we're seeing guys pop off the board. You're kind of dropping down a tier or two. I know a lot of people have wondered if they get Will Fuller. I don't know what Will Fuller has left. A couple of years ago, that might have been an exciting midseason trade. I don't know what that does for them now. So they're going to have to do something. You could be right about them popping Aaron Jones out wide or in the slot and running A.J. Dillon. It'll be interesting.
I mean, I think they've got to grab a wide receiver in the first round. They just have to. They've got to give Rodgers someone. I mean, I agree that Rodgers makes everyone better around him. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he can fit that ball into some of the tightest windows I've seen. But the wide receivers he has, I don't even know if they're going to be able to create enough separation to get a ball into a window. So I don't know how much he's going to be able to improve them. I mean, we've seen, MVS. Well, Randall Cobb didn't play, or he played, but he didn't do much last year. Like, Amari Rodgers dropped balls, MVS did. Like, Rodgers can only do so much. It's why I think Devonte got the volume he got, and he's not going to have that now. So I do think they need to draft someone in the first round. I don't think they can wait till the second, but we'll see. I mean, Gutekunst has not seemed willing to do that of late.
They have 4 of the top 59 picks, so they can pretty much decide who they want just about and put a package together to go up and get them. So they can move up, what their first rounder is
22.
So they can move up to 10 or 12 if they want to get Treylon Burks.
They're going to wait till 22 and take Kenneth Walker and just run the wishbone.
I don't think they'll move up, but I still think they'll be able to get someone at 22. It may not be Burks or Wilson, but I could see London falling that far. Jamison Williams, George Pickens. Like, there's still good receivers they can get there. If we're sitting here draft night and they do not take a wide receiver in the first round, like Aaron Rodgers is just going to retire like live on air. Like I cannot, I would be stunned if they don't take one.
Maybe they
on the Raiders side
for a receiver.
I mean, they could, hello Seattle. Let's send Jordan Love out there. Let's get DK Metcalf. Ooh, DK Metcalf. Now I'm starting to like that. Jordan Love to the Seahawks for DK Metcalf, and I'd actually love to see DK.
To send Love and their 2 first-round picks.
That's fine. I'll be all right. What were we talking about? Adams. So Adams now with the Raiders. He's getting to play with his college quarterback, Derek Carr at Fresno State. Those two had a dynamic connection there at Fresno State. Now, I'm not going Christian Watson. Yeah, Miguel, that would actually be another good fit for them as well with the speed that he brings on the outside.
But they have Christian Watson already, version 1.0 in MVS.
Yeah, I think Christian Watson's probably already better than MVS, so I'd take a shot on Watson. I'm a little not buying so much into that connection right now because that was over a decade ago, I'm pretty sure. Like they are about a decade ago. How long ago was it that they were in college together? I'm trying to remember. Was it 2013?
Adams has been in the league for 8 years.
So
Yeah.
almost 9.
2012,
So to
14, somewhere.
be 9 this season then, right? Am I adding that up correctly?
Yeah, so 14 was the year both of them came in the league, so it'd be 12, 13.
Gotcha. So, yeah. I mean,
9 years.
sure, I guess the connection doesn't go away. I'm not 100% buying into that. Derek Carr does not push the ball down the field much. There's really at times where Adams thrived with Rodgers. I definitely think it's not a bad place for him to go with Josh McDaniels there. Many consider him one of the best play callers in the league, so intrigued to see him go there. But they do have Hunter Renfrow, who got a ton of volume last year, and Darren Waller, who, if he bounces back, I think is going to steal volume away from Adams as well. So Matt probably doesn't fall outside the top 5, which is what I tweeted out this morning, but I do think it limits his chance of being like the wide receiver 1 overall because he's not going to get that volume. And yes, Angie, I'm sorry, I meant to answer that a minute ago. Nick Chubb is in my top 5 running backs because I still think he is one of the best running backs in the league. I don't know that everybody else would put him
there. I don't think you're giving Derek Carr enough credit. I saw you post that on Twitter, and I replied back to you and said, who has he necessarily had to throw it down the field to? Let's talk about the Raiders.
I didn't even see you said that. It's been a long day for me. I honestly did not even see you reply back to me.
I am also going to ask you, what do you think Derek Carr's career long passes?
Career long passes?
Yeah. I'm looking
yards?
at his long per season. His career long is 87. He's never had a year where he had less than a 61-yard long.
How much of that is air yards and how much of that is like hitting Henry Ruggs like 50 yards and him taking it or whoever?
Well, I mean, how much was always Aaron Rodgers in air yards? You'd see him hit Devonte Adams 15 yards down the field. And
I'm not disagreeing with that part. I'm saying I don't think he takes the shots down the field. Like we've seen Rodgers throw those ones where it's like I don't want to say necessarily YOLO because I always seem to hit his wide receivers perfectly, but like Adams getting open deep that I don't necessarily think Carr seems willing to do, I guess.
So
yeah, I mean his air yards per attempt the last in 19 was 8.0, 8.2.
So intended air yards per pass attempt in 2021. Las Vegas Raiders, 8.1 yards. Green Bay Packers, 7.7 yards.
I am not saying Carr is as good as Aaron Rodgers, but I do think there is somewhat of a connection. I mean, they posted their picture of them together. They do seem excited about that. I also don't think Derek Carr has necessarily had a ton of weapons to focus on. We saw, him trying to do that with Waller.
There will be no Zay Jones slander on this show.
They what?
There will be no Zay Jones slander on this show.
Well, Zay Jones, there won't be slander because I don't even think of him. But Hunter Renfrow had 128 targets last year, 93 for Waller. I think if he finds a receiver that he likes, he will pepper him with targets. Maybe not the same level as Green Bay, but you also don't know what this offense is going to look like with Josh McDaniels. I think it won't be terrible. You're probably right. Devonte Adams probably won't be the wide receiver 1 overall. I think we've seen enough great talent emerging in some places that will probably be higher volume offenses, but at the same time, the AFC West is turning into just a real all-out guns blazing time, murder's row. So it's going to be interesting. I do think it hurts the fantasy value of Waller probably more than Renfrow.
All right, let's see here. Allen Robinson to the Rams. This was an interesting one, in my opinion. 3 years, $45 million. Dennis, do you think the Rams still sign OBJ now? And what are your thoughts on Robinson going to the Rams?
I'm torn. I feel it's definitely a play to win a title. Within the next 3 years, the Rams the Rams are built to win now, and Robinson definitely he brings something a little bit different than Cooper Kupp. He doesn't have the quickness that Cooper Kupp has. He can do a little more downfield. I don't know what he brings with against Van Jefferson versus Odell versus Robert Woods. He feels a little bit redundant, especially with a team that plays three wide receivers a lot. But there's probably going to be some volume there. And Matt Stafford, he played with Calvin Johnson for a long time. And Calvin was a good downfield receiver. And I think that's probably a little more of what Allen Robinson brings to the game. He's bigger than Van Jefferson. He's bigger than Robert Woods. So he'll bring a little bit more of that contested catch stuff. But it feels redundant unless they, if they're going to bring Odell back, then I feel like Van Jefferson and Robert Woods both are going to be on the move at some point. Maybe they wait for Odell to actually get healthy and get on the field. Then they move Van Jefferson. Maybe they move Robert Woods now. I don't know. I don't know. I like Robinson as a player. From a fantasy perspective, it's a little bit puzzling.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see Allen Robinson. He's definitely going to be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with, which was the hopes and dreams that all Allen Robinson stands have had. It does seem like they are probably going to move Woods. They've said they're taking calls. I'll be curious to see how that plays out. I think they do want to re-sign OBJ. I think he liked being there. The reality of when he tore his ACL and it being the same knee that he had a problem with before probably means he's not ready till November or December. And so Van Jefferson still has a role there. But I think, I like that offense with Robinson across from Kupp. It will actually help Kupp too, because you can't just, at the tail end of the Super Bowl there, they put like everybody and their brother on Kupp. You can't do that if you have Allen Robinson, if Allen Robinson can bounce back to real form.
Yeah, man, I think Robinson can be fine. We saw him have spurts there in Chicago. I hate to say, I don't want to say maybe checked out, but I know he was dealing with an injury, and I think maybe it was one of those things where let's just get out of Chicago healthy at that point. I still think he's a good player. Again, playing with the best quarterback he's ever had in Matt Stafford, a good offense, having Cooper Kupp. Even if they do or don't bring back OBJ, they're still going to have Tutu Atwell, who I don't really know is ever going to be anything. But there's also somebody else that I'm forgetting that's played decently, and I cannot remember Van Jefferson there. So, they'll have a couple good wide receivers. I think Allen Robinson's an interesting fit. I hope they bring back Odell. I'm curious as what happens with him. I think at this point I honestly think like Robert Woods has a contract. I think OBJ is probably going to have to sign like a 2-year deal somewhere because he's likely, I don't think, coming back anytime soon. Even if he's able to make it 9-10 months, you're talking about October, November before he's able to get back out on the field. That's practically the end of the season. So I'd like to see him go back somewhere because I still like Odell. I'd like to see him come back into the NFL. I don't know that the Rams need him, though, in bringing in Allen Robinson. Dennis, is there anywhere you'd prefer Robert Woods to go? I believe they actually have to trade him by Monday because that's when his contract it kicks in. So he's either gonna get moved or he's gonna get cut. Aiden, I see your question about the Jags. We'll answer that in just a second. But your thoughts on Robert Woods, Dennis?
Indianapolis would be a good fit for him. Be a possession receiver with Paris Campbell kind of doing short area stuff, Pittman downfield. Carolina, it would have been good to see him maybe go to the Jaguars and provide some stability there for Trevor Lawrence, but they invested their receiver money in other receivers. It's hard to say where would I like to see him go. I mean, those strike me as being the best fits. Kansas City would have been a great fit. I think he's better than Juju. So, but that's not available now.
Matt, any thoughts?
Maybe the Eagles. That might be a good one. They could
Yeah.
use a receiver like that.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. None of free agency has played out the way that I thought.
That's very true.
Maybe that with the Rams do Green Bay a solid and just send Robert Woods over there. Get a first round pick, get a second round pick, get a pick in this draft.
Round. I don't think you'd get a first round for Woods at this point.
But but if you got like a second or a third, that would be better than what the Rams.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I'm the Packers, I'd throw a second at him and see if you can get him, or a third with his cap
pick
hit.
50. They have pick 53 and pick 59 is what they have.
I'd do it. Throw 15 out, Robert. Even if he doesn't start off the season, that still gives Rodgers at least somebody. All right, so to Aiden's question really quick, and then we're going to run through the last couple free agents before we get out of here because Matt is going to go on vacation. I see that you have Trevor Lawrence on your profile picture here, so I assume you're a Jags fan. I think Brandon Sheriff was a great move. Shoring up that offensive line. I'd be very interested to see if they still go Evan Neal at 1. To really kind of improve that offensive line, because I don't think Cam Robinson's staying much after this year with the franchise tag, or do they go defensive line first? Outside of that, I'm not a big fan of all of the moves. I want to see what they're going to do with Laviska Shenault, because I feel like he's more of a slot wide receiver, and then they brought in Christian Kirk, who is a slot wide receiver, and paid him all that money. The one thing I will say is they're clearly trying to do everything they can to get weapons around Trevor Lawrence to help him. So good on them for that, because we just talked about how Green Bay has tried to do that and has not done that at all to help out Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of things I want to see how it plays out. Like, they have a lot of the same weapons, in my opinion. I don't know how that works out, getting all those guys on the field. I'm actually kind of excited about the Evan Ingram signing. And maybe that's just me, getting my hand caught in the cookie jar, however you want to put it too many times. Like, Evan Ingram's got upside, and we know that they've done a really good job with tight ends in that offense. So I'm very intrigued to see how Evan Ingram looks, and Dan Arnold with Lawrence. But the wide receivers, like, I'm kind of holding my breath right now because I don't know what we're going to get out of those guys.
They're definitely a top 4 team in the AFC South.
Probably.
Well, I feel like Kirk is being greatly undersold. If for no other reason than volume, he's going to get volume. Visca has shown nothing. And so to me, it's like maybe there's a break. I mean, Visca is quickly headed towards Jalen Reagor territory, Brian Edwards territory, which isn't great. And, ETN, I think ETN is going to have to hold down the fort until James Robinson gets back. I like what ETN, the explosiveness he brings to the table. If he's fully recovered from the Liz Frank injury, I think he's going to be a dynamic playmaker. And, the 2 tight ends, Arnold and Ingram, I think can provide they can provide some explosiveness down the middle of the field. I agree that they really lack a big alpha Drake London type wide receiver. And I don't know where they're picking in this draft that they're going to.
So they've got 3 in the top 20. They've got this, I think it's 16, 17, and 19. So they're going to get them.
I was thinking they had just the high one.
No, yeah, they've got 16, 17. 1. The Eagles? Oh, I'm thinking Eagles. I'm sorry. Yeah. Jacksonville has number 1.
And
yeah,
33.
they have number 1. Yeah, 1 and 33. Yeah.
So
they're not taking a wide receiver at 1. They got to hope someone falls to 33.
In this draft class, like Drake London to me is the guy that fits what they need. And Treylon Burks. And I just don't think either one of them are going to be there for them. And I don't know if I want to take George Pickens at 33 with his injury history. I feel like at 33, at 33, he could be a great bargain based on what he's shown he can be. But I'm conflicted there.
I'd be happy with
a good
Pickens at
receiver
33.
drops to 33 though.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. He's really only had the one serious injury last year, so Dotson would be interesting too. I don't think Dotson's quite the alpha. He's a little bit smaller than originally listed. Pickens with his size and speed, I think could be I mean, I don't know if you want to bet on injury, but you know who you could probably get in the third round, and it's a risk. But if it hits, I think it would be a massive hit for you. Why not take his teammate Justin Ross? I know
Because I don't think Ross is gonna. I think people are kind of down on him.
Right. So you take a shot at him in the 4th or 5th, 5th round.
4th, 5th round, yeah. Not in the 3rd. I mean,
I'd be
ran
willing to
like
take a shot on
4.65 40 at his pro day, or 4.61 40.
So did Justin Jefferson, and look at what he did. Before the injury, Ross was an absolute stud. I'd be willing to take a shot on him. All right, so we're going to just run through. I'm going to give you guys
optimistic about the Jags. I think they're going to be lucky to win 4 games.
I'm going to run through the last big signings here, and then I'm just going to have each of you pick out one that you want to talk about that you think was a big deal here. So during the show, I didn't see the exact contract details, so I'll just throw it out here because Matt is a secret Dallas Cowboys fan. James Washington to the Cowboys, so kind of bringing in another wide receiver with the loss of Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson. You got Von Miller to the Bills, 6 years, $120 million, along with O.J. Howard, who signed a 1-year, $3.5 deal. Juju signed just after the Deshaun Watson news broke to the Chiefs for a 1-year prove-it deal for $10.75 million. Chris Godwin signs a long-term deal with the Bucs for 3 years, $60 million. They also get Russell Gage. Rumors are they're also going after Julio Jones. DJ Chark to the Lions on a 1-year, $12 million deal. Austin Hooper to the Titans on a 1-year deal. Tyrod Taylor signs as insurance for the Giants. And Raheem Mostert continues to add just a big-ass question mark to the Dolphins' backfield, signing to the Dolphins' backfield here with like 8 other backs. So, yeah. Matt, what is
this 1 year, $3.25 million?
Gotcha. What is one deal that stands out to you?
I'm going to go with Von Miller. Denver was trying to get him back. The Rams were trying to get him back. That's a huge contract. 6 years, $120 million, and something like $50 million of it was guaranteed over the first 3 years, $50 or $52 million. The Bills, may not be in the AFC West, but they're going to have to go through it to get to the Super Bowl. I think we're seeing the Bills, having been agonizingly close the last couple of years, and falling just short, are doing everything they possibly can to try to get there. The O.J. Howard signing made me sad because I like Dawson Knox and I don't know what that means. But Von Miller, they've done some pieces on defense. They still have some draft picks. I thought that was a pretty big signing. Especially kind of we've always made jokes here. Von Miller seems to destroy the Patriots. I thought that was kind of funny. Now he goes into their division.
I think that the signing of Raheem Mostert to the Dolphins, yes, the backfield is going to be muddy to start out with, but Raheem Mostert, he's there to teach that offense to the running back room. We see it all the time with when coordinators go and they get jobs as head coaches, and they have it's Brandon Bolden going to the Raiders. Bolden is there to teach the offense. So while Mostert's probably going to get a fair amount of run, I think he's the 2 to Chase Edmonds, with Gaskin as the guy that backs up both of them. And all 3 are probably going to have a 100-yard, 1 touchdown game on your bench this year. I think that's good for what the team is trying to do. Not great for fantasy. And I love Chark to Detroit just because I think his skill set complements Amon-Ra St. Brown's skill set very well.
Yeah, Chark was one that stood out to me. I mean, I had him very high last year before the injury. I'd love to be able to see him bounce back. I mean, Vaughn as well. Like, that entire AFC East has just been, like, loading up and then the Patriots are over there like getting rid of everybody. So I'm really intrigued to see how that works out. I mean, if I'm really picking one, it's Juju. I'm just excited about the TikToks him and whatever Patrick Mahomes' brother's name is are going to make with Brittany. I think they're going to become like a great little trio there. It's going to be great dancing on the phenomenal. I'm here for it. You go, Juju. Go get yours. All right, so that will do it for us today. Matt is on vacation.
That was the best analysis.
I thought so too. I've got family in town next week, so we will not have a podcast Monday, but I believe we'll be back Friday. Yes, so we will all be back Friday in case anything crazy. If something super crazy happens, I'll try and like jump on for like 5 minutes or something. But outside of that, we will be back on Friday. So everybody enjoy your weekends, stay safe, and we will talk to you guys again in a week.